Okay. Welcome back to the Street Shaman Podcast. I am your host, Potent the Rockstar, aka Shamanic Poe. And today I'm here with content provider, ex-life coach, CPTSD expert, and a homie, Richard Grannon. How you doing, my guy? How you
Very
feeling?
well, sir. Very, very well. Thank you so much for having me on again. It's always a pleasure talking to you. We should do these. I realized the last time we spoke, I was in America. The last time we spoke here on YouTube,
Right.
like 7 months ago. We should
Right.
do. We should do. We should do this more regularly, mate. I love chatting to you. So thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, I would do them more frequent, but I don't want to be like, yo, Richard, you want to do another video? Yo, Richard, you want to get
Just
fired?
ask. It
Yo,
honestly, it's a break for me. It's like I can. I look forward to it, and I can actually just like because when I talk normally, especially in public, in my role, especially with the original role, Spartan Life Coach, it has to be agendered, and it has to be. I got to not say that. I don't want to trigger them, but and it's tough, mate. So to be able to just talk like a person rather than a representative of a
right.
brand is great.
Nah, I get that. I get that because it's like that's kind of what I'm trying to do my best to not fall into.
Yeah,
So like I'm just trying to pull all my fucking antennas in every different direction and talk as real and down to earth as possible. Not try to hit people with too much jargon. Just fucking talk shit, curse, be
yeah,
yourself, chill out. Because I feel like when you start getting into that certain situation where you're appeasing a crowd or
yeah.
you're catering to a certain demographic, you fall into all these different type of traps. Where it's
100%.
like, no, you stay on this side of the fence. We only talk about this. This is how we fucking run shit over here. You going over there, dog? We don't like
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like as long as I'm like letting everybody know where I stand, and if it's gonna take longer to get there, and if it's gonna be a slower and a longer grind, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
That way, the people that are paying attention to me are gonna be authentically connected with me because they know how I am here. They know how I am there.
And
Do you?
I respect the decision that, in my estimation, it looks like you made about 18 months ago to go this route, right? You were just
Yeah,
like, I'm just if it's slow grind, if it's a fucking marathon, I'm gonna just do me, but I'm gonna keep going. And I've
yeah,
watched you do that, and it's a very courageous decision because everything in this environment is saying to you, quick hit, quick hit, quick hit. What are your stats? How many views you got? How many subscribers you got? Oh, that's bullshit. This is just fucking useless. You haven't got. And I'm like, I feel that pressure, and before you know it, you're into politics, and not. I don't. I
right,
obviously it could be politics, but politics with a small p. Like I just
right,
admitted, like for Spartan Life Coach, I can't say whatever I want. I have done a few times, and then I look back on it, and I'm like, but you got vulnerable people following you, and you're talking like, you just can't do it. So you actually have to quite aggressively defend that boundary and go, no, it's going to be potent. And if there's two people watching me, it's still potent. It's you aggressively defend that, and then we all don't fall into the Joe Rogan trap because as much as he made that bag, I listen to him now and I'm like, he sounds like a guy who's in an orange jumpsuit with like ISIS dudes behind him with the
yeah,
he's like he's talking out of one side of his mouth the whole time. Where it used to be the big dick energy and the silly and the fucking crazy and the stand-up comedy
mm-hmm,
and aliens and now
mm-hmm.
it's like, well, it's all a bit like it's coming out of a very tightened sphincter. So keep your sphincter loose.
Right, right.
I just wanted to
But
start there in the first 5 minutes.
what is it about that type of like what the world would equate to as success in a massive way? It turns into kind of like this like jail cell, this kind of like slavery almost. Like you're super rich, but now everybody knows who you are. You have to be confined. You have to go certain places at a certain time. You have to move in this. What is it about that like why is it that the society is built that way where it's like you get to a certain point of success, a lot of money, but now you got a lot of restrictions, way more restrictions. Like, why is it
always that, mate, isn't it? I mean, you've got this trope, this cliche in the music industry. If somebody's big, and you'll hear this more, I see this from like the conspiracy theory, but particularly in black conspiracy theory groups, and they'll be looking at like black celebrities and going, they sold their soul. That's the only way you make money, is by selling your soul to the devil. And I'm like, maybe people do literally do like weird ceremonies and jerk off into a pentagon and whatever, but it doesn't matter, because metaphorically you absolutely do. And the devil in this case is it's exchange. It's this for that. And you're trading bits of, because you as a human being are dynamic. You're changing, you're spontaneous, you've got moods, you've got dreams, if you're representing a brand, once Joe Rogan becomes a brand, wow, he's a brand. A corporation is interested in him. Why is a corporation interested in him? Because they want to fucking get their claws into him and squeeze him and use him. They're trying to drive people to Spotify. So we all go, fucking hell, $100 million, that's loads. Meanwhile, the corporation's like, have it, you fucking bothead MMA commentator. You can just bring it to the humans. That's all they care about. So it has this demonic, diabolical overtone to it. And I don't doubt people literally do rituals and stuff, but even if you don't believe that, you are selling your soul to the devil, as in you're exchanging that thing of value for something that's coarse. It's material, and it could be money, could be fame, could be sex, I don't know, but it's of the devil's world of material pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely, for sure. But a lot of people talk about that, and they want to say that people are selling their souls, but people sell their souls for way less. They sell their souls for $30,000 a year to work at some job. I feel like that's selling your soul as well, right?
Well, and that's where, when I see it, it's not, especially in this time, it's not for me to step in there and be like, hey, let me tell you this, you shouldn't say this. It's definitely not the fucking time for me to stick my big white face in there. But there is hypocrisy and there's class resentment there. It's actually more like, well, Beyonce sold her soul to the devil, Jay-Z sold it. And it's like, yeah, let's not forget that these are talented human beings who have grafted at a craft for years. While you were with your friends, and all you other critics are on street corners and hanging out, going to house parties and getting smashed. Jay-Z's a nerd in a room trying to make things rhyme so that he can do a freestyle of that. And Beyonce's doing her fucking scales or whatever you do in singing.
Or scales, choreography,
dance moves. I mean, these people are not slobs, and they're not free. They're not fucking free. We all have our opinions about the quality of the music or the messaging, or whatever. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying, like, before you attack them, check your resentment. Like, don't you just slightly hate them because they're fucking so rich and you're not? Okay, well, let's have we can at least have a sense of humor about that first, and then get into, demons and all the rest of it. It's so tempting to view things through that lens and to think, well, I'm punching up, so I couldn't possibly be hurting anybody. Well, Beyonce, I don't know if Beyonce is just the stage name. Jay-Z obviously is. There's a real person there, and they have feelings, and they will be hurt. Like, if you turn on them, and Jay-Z's even rapped about it years ago. He was talking about it, like people, all the critics online and in the magazines and everything. People just won't shut the fuck up. Before Twitter existed, people wouldn't shut the fuck up. Nietzsche complained about this stuff. Nietzsche in the fucking 1880s was he was complaining about this type of thing. He wrote an essay in Thus Spake Zarathustra called "The Fleas in the Marketplace, who bite and sting you because they've nothing else to do. They just fucking hate you because you're something."
Right. And what is that about, like, us, that it just seems like we never graduated high school. Like, we just get stuck in high school no matter what it is, even any job, any little bullshit job, industry shit, media, radio, wherever you look and wherever you could point, everybody's still stuck in that adolescent mindset. What do you think
I
that is?
I think on the sort of like the point of view of externalizing agency, because I know me and you, we have this recurring theme of agency. If we externalize the agency, there's marketing, there's salespeople, there's politicians. They don't want you to grow up. It doesn't suit their needs for you to grow up. And then if we internalize the agency, we'll just say, well, humans have never wanted to grow up. Again, back to the 1880s, read Dostoevsky and the brothers Karamazov. He's talking exactly the same thing about the people in Russia. It's like, why are you all so addicted to luxury? Why are you got to? And he's talking. You have to have carriages. You have to have luxury dinners. You have to have finery and the best pistols. It's bling. What do you need all this fucking bling for? And if you don't have it, you're miserable. So it is a part of modern culture, and it is a part of us being manipulated. But it's also just human nature. We fall prey. The demons are not really out there. The demons mainly are in here. But we don't like that story. We don't like the idea. It's hard to say it to you, man. It's hard to say, hey, I'm kind of being a fucking dick about this. That's tough. It's way easier to say, well, fuck Beyonce, she sold her soul to the devil.
Right. And I mean, not to just throw in psychedelics, but I feel like the psychedelics for me, when I become that person, in the split second, I flip over and I make fun of myself. Like, I'm like, oh, Look at that motherfucker over there. And then I'm going to say, oh, look at you, nigga. Like, who you acting like?
Yeah.
You know, like right at the same time. Oh, look at you. Look at this. Right.
Because the spirit of psychedelics just doesn't play really with that. When you start being egotistical, whatever like acid, my experiences were mainly with acid. But it seems to be, these are one of the recurrent themes, is like, look at you. Come on now. Can you hear yourself? And it's almost like if you haven't taken the psychedelics, you don't get that voice. You just don't hear that little whispering voice going, you're being a fucking cocksucker right now. Stop it.
Right.
And we all need that.
Absolutely. I had to like learn my own voice. I'm still like learning it, getting back, because after the psychedelic trip, I had to question everything that I was saying. Yeah. Every single thing that I was saying, was that right? I'm just saying that, like, I know. Do I really know? Let me check that. Let me shut the fuck up. And I literally spent 2-3 years like a monk. I barely talked to anybody about anything. I just listened. People could talk to me. It wasn't like I was ignoring anybody. I was taking in all the input, but I just wasn't giving anything out. Right. You know, there's like just being stuck in a way of like what is right and what is wrong. Yeah. And I feel like that's because of the world. The world just turned everything upside down on us. So what most people would fight for what is right is actually wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's that ideological infection, right? So what's in your head? Is it yours? I don't think you put that there. My friend, I think you have a parasite. I think you're the vessel for something that is not a good, which sounds like demonic possession. I think you can explain it psychologically. Maybe it's interesting or informative to have the metaphor of the demonic possession. But I know what you're saying, and I appreciate the effort to have the discipline to just stop speaking and to just listen. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. If I could sell people to do anything, it would be that, because you will grow in ways you cannot fathom, that are beyond the current state imagination, whatever level of consciousness you're at. You can't even fathom how much you'll grow through. And that's psychedelic. Anything that's mind expanding is psychedelic. When you stop speaking and you just hear a person, you're just listening to them, then you're on their trip. This is how they used to talk in the 60s and 70s, right? You didn't just take a trip. Like a policeman could be on a power trip. I'm on my acid trip. He didn't take acid, but I think the hippies would say that, like, oh, he's on this trip. He's on the law trip, the power trip, the authority trip. And then you can hear their trip. And you go, oh, wow, you really fucking like that nightstick, don't you? That big, thick club in your hand. You know, you like the way that hat looks, don't you? Oh, there we go. And it breeds empathy. It breeds compassion. as Terence McKenna said, because it dissolves the boundaries. We're having this, and you get that. I think everybody, maybe people who've done a lot of meditation and fasting, they probably get to the same place. You start to realize in a very concrete way with psychedelics that we are one thing, that beyond the skin, the material, the flesh, as you go down through the layers, the essence of you that is still there when all the layers are taken away, that's the same essence as me. And you move away from that and you layer out and you go, oh no, we're different. Look at, hi, we can have a conversation. We got two different experiences. I can learn from you, but it's just the same circuit talking to itself at like a deeper level. That's a trippy thought. I think I just made myself trip a little bit.
That's definitely a trippy thought. And like I have to catch myself sometimes because I definitely like went off the deep end for a year or so. I was definitely like full blown in psychosis. Didn't give a fuck about nothing of the world. So I have to watch myself because I could be on the shitter, just sitting there and one thought to come and that other guy to come through and say, hey, look what this motherfucker's thinking over there. Like, stop that shit. And it's not like I'm naming them. It's not two different states. I'm not like, that's potent. This is Lionel. It's not. It's just like two ideas. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here with that other idea. What are you talking about? You're just trying to make my day worse or some shit. Yeah. But it's crazy how I can catch myself. And I used to just go around to everybody like, oh, you don't notice that there's like nothing. So many people just like, no. Either they're embarrassed to speak on it and they think that that's shameful. They might think that they're crazy, or they just don't have it. I don't know. What do you think?
I wonder. I kind of think with the psychedelic experience, with your own internal thinking, when it's all like this on top of it, this thought is having this and this one has a different thought, you don't notice because they're all glommed. And psychedelics go bleh, and you're like, oh, stop, put them back. And the drug's like, no, we're doing this for 12 hours. And you're like, freaking out, hoping that it would go back to normal. And you're like, oh, right. It's moving. So then you're trapped in a space that's chaotic and boundaryless, and it's traumatic. And I think that's why we have flashbacks, like psychedelic flashbacks, because the impression of the experience is so strong, it burns into the brain, and I'll have neural pathways for life. Like when I watched True Detective, and Matthew McConaughey's character, was it Rusty? He was starting to trip again. I had to turn it off. And this is like 25 years later, because it was so close to my experience of acid flashbacks. This is the characters having it, because it's so intense. And I think when you've lived a truly intense experience and it's partly horrifying, and this got stretched to here, well, it does go back, but there's still gaps because it got overstretched. And so you're like, neat. I caught you. That's not the same thing. That's different parts. But you say that to somebody who didn't have the experience. Isn't that why we have this certainty and people so attached to their ideas? Like, if it comes in my mind, it's me and it's my idea and I'm not wrong, so it's true. Right. So now I'm ready to kill someone because I had a thought. Whereas if you've had the psychedelic experience, you're like, how the fuck are you so attached? Like, you'll have another thought tomorrow. It'll be the opposite thought. Don't worry about it. It doesn't. This is the positive side of psychedelics. You detach from your ego-centric need for certainty and rightness. And, I said something on a video 5 years ago. Do I need to say it now? No, fuck that guy. He's probably dead 100 times. I might die every single night when I go asleep and close my eyes, and then I'm reborn. Right. And I don't fucking know. He may have died, however, 1,500 times. It doesn't matter. Right. Let it go. Just let it go. So, yeah, I probably had a point in there somewhere. I'm not entirely sure what it was.
It's all good, man. It's all good. No. Let's see what I got here. I got a lot of questions. I got some questions for you because I know you were doing you started to get really big, and when I were introduced to you and I found you on YouTube, you were basically talking about CPTSD, and other personality disorders. And then now you went into philosophy and you got completely away from all that. What was the drive that made you switch gears into doing philosophy and not really like sticking with the mental illness? Was it just because I know, but just for the question's
Yeah,
sake,
yeah.
was it just because it was just too much shit going on, or like too many people trying to talk the same game, or was it just that you started to see like a twist on like the people that were consuming this?
That's interesting. Too many people talking the same game. That resonates with me. I wonder, now, why does that resonate with me? I wonder if, so we mentioned ideology before and mental parasites. I am being suspicious for a long time, mate. I mean, it's since the end of 2016. It was around the Trump election time. And what Trump's election gave me an enlightenment. I came out saying Trump's dangerous. This is a narcissistic psychopath. It's going to be dangerous for the country. Sam Vaknin did the same thing. Right. And Judith Herman, the woman who created the concept of CPTSD, who's like a top flight Harvard professor. She may even run the psychology department there, if I'm not mistaken. Bunch of other like, so I'm not putting myself on the level of Judith Herman, by the way. That was slick what I just fucking did. There was me, there was Freud.
Richard, you gotta stop. Richard, you gotta stop. No. But you gotta stop, because seriously though, you would do the same shit that I would do in the position that you're in.
Right.
I would just try to go and look at me. I'm trying to put myself in the mix. I'm not in the mix. Richard, you are there. There's millions of views with your face attached. Speaking the gospel, saying the word, talking about the different things, helping people, getting people. So you're there.
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah, I have a little stake out. I have a stake there. No, you're right.
Yeah.
There's. Thank you. I appreciate that. So there was an unprecedented move in psychology, because you're not supposed to do it. A bunch of people came out publicly and said, "Look, this is really, really dangerous." Obviously, well, I mean, we are living within the repercussions of that. It's not an assessment that I would make now, but that's what happened at the time. And then in order to back it up, I started going back over the literature, and I'm like, well, how? Just let me be, because even the guy who helped to write the DSM-5 description of narcissistic personality disorder came out, and he put his oar in. So I went back to, I haven't read the DSM. I've only read this section on cluster B personality disorders. I don't know the rest of the diagnostic and statistical manual. So I went back and I reread that section, and I was like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. There are contradictions from this page to this page on the diagnosis. And that led me into a whole thing of like, obviously I was talking to Sam Vaknin, and that's a psychedelic experience because he's a super high IQ narcissistic psychopath. And everybody gets the same thing. If you sit and talk, Sam Vaknin changes your life. But for a few days afterwards, you do feel like your soul was thrown into a black hole for a little bit, spun around, and then you get it back. But it's a bit different when you get it back. And it really put a crack in psychology for me. That whole experience of rereading the DSM and talking to Sam and just being like, okay, how do any of us know? How do we know? And these are philosophical questions. These are like, how do you know that you know? And then how do you know that you know that you know? So philosophy started to kick in. I mean, originally I wanted to study psychology and philosophy. That was my intent. I tried to study at Oxford and they told me to go fuck myself. And so I started pulling it apart and looking at it. And there was a lot of people, I think you said there was a lot of people talking the same game. And it is a lot of people talking the same game, and it's going nowhere. We're not curing mental health. There's fucking tons of mental health practitioners. There's tons of psychology graduates.
Right.
We're not doing great work out. We're not winning a battle.
Why do you think that we're not curing mental health? Why are we not curing mental? Do you think? Because I would assume we do not want to cure any mental health. We want to rubber stamp people, keep them in the system, make that money, get to the bag, you know, and that's it. That's all we want to do. Oh, rubber stamp you as this. You go over there. You take these pills. Thank you for the profits.
100%. There's a big industry there, and it is not a good business model for anyone who's working anything even remotely related to medicine. And I guess psychology is remotely related to medicine, to cure your patients so they never come back for anything else. But I think it's more than that. It's not that there's like a dark conspiracy where they could help people, but they choose not to because it's beneficial. For various reasons, I've sat in on multiple counseling sessions, and the level of incompetence would astonish you, sir. It would astonish you. There are many, many counselors who I would say to clients, I would far rather you go and speak to Potent about this and have a normal person's conversation for an hour than that counselor. There are psychiatrists that I've worked with that I would put you before them, because that psychiatrist is going to fucking hurt. They're so bad. Whereas at least you could have a conversation at an egalitarian level and be like, these are my experiences. This is what I found to be true. This is what I learned. Let's talk. That person's going to walk away with benefit. Like the whole setup of psychology and psychiatry and psychoanalysis, and it's such a mess. It's so tainted. And the taint was Freud. It was Freud. If Nietzsche was the godfather of psychology that he wanted to be, because he proclaimed himself the world's greatest psychologist, we would live in a different world, a very different world. But it was Freud who got that mantle, and Freud was a doctor, and Freud was a little bit of a mystic, and Freud was power hungry and fame hungry and money hungry. And it just tainted, it just poisoned the well, basically. So that's come thereafter. And you can't, you can't treat psychological problems as though they're physical problems. That's how I would say it in as short a form as possible. It'll make you sicker if you try. Right.
Because there's definitely something about just keeping somebody confined to a certain box.
Yeah.
If as a person we grow and we constantly change physically, mentally and emotionally, then how can you rubber stamp somebody as something and say you're forevermore this?
You can't. And it's a really sick carryover from medicine. Like, you want to say to somebody, I don't know, you have pneumonia. How do we know? Well, here's the symptoms, and we have a list of symptoms, and here's a test, and here's your diagnosis. Psychiatrists are doctors first. They do 4 or 5 years of medical school. It's absurd that they should be why the fuck is a psychiatrist a doctor? Well, so that they have the legal right to dish out pills and drugs.
Right.
It's not a diagnosis. There's no prognosis with mental health issues. There's no fucking diagnosis. These are human existential issues. There's an angst that we feel. Oh, you have general anxiety disorder. Fuck you. How dare you tell my client they have you don't know that. You quack. You fucking quack. How did you come to that conclusion? You bounce some beads over them 3 times and ask the wind. I mean, like, and it's gotten, it's symptomatic of the whole world we've moved into. It feels like at some point in history, probably around the 1880s, we opened up Pandora's box. We said, fuck life, fuck God, fuck each other. Let's see what we can do. and let's let evil reign. And it's a weird kind of evil because it depends on division, which depends on labels, which depends on slicing and dicing. And what's come out? There's fucking so many mental health diagnoses now that people think they're riddled with. All these acronyms. I have ADHD and BPD and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? Says who? Show me the piss test or the blood test that confirms any of that.
Right. And a lot of people, I feel like because we are so lost as a society, a lot of people are just looking for something to rubber stamp themselves with, so they can say, look, I'm over here, I'm this. So can I just go with the people that are that, and we could just be together and we can continue to be that to the end of fucking time.
So you just said it there. What does it give people? If we reverse engineer what it gives people, a sense of identity and a sense of community. Oh, you mean like when they had a church, and before we splintered the fucking families up, and before we broke the fucking communities up, they had an identity and a community that was given to them for free. You can't tax it, by other human beings spontaneously and naturally. And then someone or something came in there and said, fuck that, clunk, chop all that shit off. Let's have them all individuated, stuck away from each other, not looking at each other, not smelling each other, not talking to each other. And let's see how that goes. And if they need help, they go to a doctor. They go to a psychiatrist who, in essence, is a representative of the state. I mean, in America, it's much more, it's way stronger than in the UK, but you are absolutely state licensed. And that state will issue the license under the authority of the federation, of the greater state of the United States, at the federal level. So, I mean, which is why you have this weird thing in America where, you know, a psychotherapist in Idaho can't treat a client in Ohio or something, which is really strange. But that just shows you this isn't about healing people. These motherfuckers don't care about human suffering. Like you said, they want that bag, they want their money. And they're like, well, you found a therapist who can help you? Where are they? Oh, they're in California. Where are you? Nebraska. Well, that's fucking illegal. What? If that therapist speaks to you over Zoom, they can lose their fucking license. What, you're all American? What the fuck are we doing? It's the mafia. We're controlling the money. The money goes there. They paid to the Capuzzi family, and you're trying to give it to the Berticelli family, and we can't fucking have that.
Right. Just to, gonna shift gears a little bit here, but you did say it's about the money. It's like a mafia. It's usually just keeping the people that are already richer, you know, get richer and keep them rich, right? It's the same idea with the legalized weed. You know, they wanted to legalize weed, and you notice they have legalized weed in some states, half the states, I want to say now. But the reason why most of them are going so fucking slow, you know, I thought it was okay because there's a lot of people in jail. Maybe they want to run their sentences, and then maybe, I don't fucking know, right? They're going so slow because they want to have 4 to 5 growers in each state. So you have to compete for that contract, right? You have to bid on the contract, and that means you have to have X amount of land, you have to have X amount of money, and then for being a dispensary, only 4 or 5 of those different companies. So now you got 10 people that are gonna run the whole state for marijuana, which is definitely $1 billion business. I would assume that it's $1 billion business in every fucking state. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So this is why they did, you know, they're slow rolling it. It's like they're trying to make sure they got all the extra millionaires that they can turn into billionaires, or the billionaires that want to get involved.
These would be the same fuckers who were bidding for contracts in Iraq for ammunition. Now they'll have switched and they'll be delivering marijuana to your door. I speak, obviously, people who don't know me, I'm speaking as a Brit. I have a British accent. I'm clearly not from America. My sister's a naturalized American. She married an American at age 21. My first visit to America, I was 21 right before the towers fell. And so I've been working with America for years. And I say this, I've been in and out of America for a long time. If there's anything, I'm not saying America will collapse. I hope that it doesn't. But if there's anything that heralds the collapse of America, it is the way America has legalized weed. Not that it legalized weed, the way it has. The fucking hypocrisy, the rank insanity, the total disregard for humanity it's exposed it. And who'd have thunk it? It wasn't cocaine, it wasn't Oxycontin, it wasn't meth, it was weed. It's just weed contracts. But as we sit back and we watch, we're like, you fuckers. This is an outrage. The way that weed was treated before, the way you would be policed for weed, the way you would be sentenced for weed, and then it's just biddly biddly bee. It's legal now. What fucking magic?
Right. And the fact that it's legal now, but only the rich are gonna be able to control it and hold on to it. So that means, like, for instance, if it was the other way around, or maybe if they said, okay, go ahead, there's, bars. There's bars on every fucking corner. There's a permit that needs to be for each bar, right? And there's a certain amount of permits that they have per state. Like, oh, we have 500 permits for bars, 1,000 permits. Yeah. How you guys are going to limit it down to 5 to 10 people that could run this shit when there's all these other people that could make a living? It doesn't they don't have to even necessarily make a big fucking living. They could probably make a couple $100,000 and,
and then with a straight face, they'll tell you that they're the defenders of free market capitalism. They'll be like, we're the most capitalist country in the world. I'm like, bitch, this is fucking socialism. The government is telling you whether you can own a business or not. That's textbook fucking socialism. Are you mad? But they're like, well, America the brave, America the free, we're capitalists. This is so not capitalism. Just look it up on Wikipedia, for example.
Right. And I know you're big on anti-communism in some type. And I understand that. But, excuse me, I got the beer burp. Sorry, got a couple beers in me now. The burp's coming.
Spirits go in, spirits come out.
So, I know you're big on the communism thing, but I feel like we're going into that. I feel like that's what America is going to turn into, and maybe other countries start picking it up a little bit more. Communism for the poor. Communism for the poor, and then capitalism for the rich, just like China.
I think that's the direction that we're definitely going in. Strictly speaking, I'm not adverse to socialist policies. I mean, both of our nations have had deeply socialist policies for decades, and I'm not against it. Like unbridled capitalism. Well, we've all played Monopoly. We know how that fucking goes. That's not good. Marx, in and of itself, like certain elements of Marxism, I get it. I understand it. I would take the George Orwell stance. People thought that George Orwell was a socialist who hated fascism, but the words came out of the man's mouth. He said specifically he's against totalitarianism. So I'm against totalitarianism. I don't see a threat from fascism right now in 2021. I do see one in the future. I do see one in 3-4 years' time when the pendulum swings. So I'm banging the drum against communism because faux communism, as you just defined it, like this is not the idea that like the ultra capitalists keep everything and then the proletariat share everything. That's not Marx. I just had this argument with somebody today. It was like, that's Marxism. I'm like, bitch, read Marx. That's not fucking Marxism. That's like an oligarchy. You could maybe claim it's Leninism. You could say that it's or Stalinism. It's a fucking trick by gangsters, but it's not Marxism. For Marx, it's clearly defined. It's a spontaneous and authentic revolution brought about by the proletariat to seize the means of production. It's clear as day. You can't have a corporation backed. Like the fuck would a capitalist help anti-capitalists? Like that's insane. So I'm banging on about communism now because fake communism, fake Marxism is the big threat now. It's
Right.
all totalitarian. It's all I loathe totalitarianism. You can be on the left or the right. I don't really care. My thing that I would defend is libertarianism.
Right.
I want you to have your rights. I want me to have my rights. I want the government to shrink. I want the government to shut the fuck up. The government right now, through the times we're living in, the statements coming out of the mouths of government now are insane. We'll give you your freedoms back. The fuck do you think you are, an ancient emperor speaking to their subjects? We pay you. You work for us. You fucking fuck. Gangsters,
Right.
man. They're absolute gangsters.
Right.
So that's I just wanted to be clear. I'm against statism.
Right. And that's, the way we've been conditioned now. I don't know if it was happenstance, if it was just how it went down, or if it was deliberate. But the way we are conditioned now, we're just so soft. We're so easy to push over. We're so easy to manipulate and just roll over. Like, hey, listen, hey, look, we're doing this for your benefit. We'll give you your freedoms. You're like, hey, they're doing it for us. We love it. It's like,
yeah. We're cooked. We're very, very well cooked at this point. We're like vegetables that have been boiled for too long. We're very beyond al dente. We're soft mush. And
right. What do you think that is? Sorry to cut you off, Richard. How do you think they cooked us? How do you think they cooked us? Do you think they cooked us like a Brave New World? It's just pleasure us, stroke us. Like, look, I got porno on my phone, the same phone I'm using to record. Once I get off of this, I can get on porno, whack my dick if I want to. You know what I mean? Like, I could play games for endless hours online with people that I'm never gonna fucking meet. Like,
if you film that could be your first OnlyFans, by the way.
True.
Look, it's capitalism, comrade. We're all gonna make money.
We gotta make money. Money gotta be made. Our society, but money gotta be made.
So I think that it was a combination of, like, I think that certain think tanks got together and they looked at Brave New World, they looked at 1984, and they're like, should it be yin or should it be yang? And they're like, maybe we could do both. Maybe we could have the best elements of both. So before you did a 1984 style takeover, cook the population with pleasure first, and then you don't have to really kill people. You just be like, do as you're told. No. Do as you're told. Okay. Just go ahead and do as you're told, or else we'll switch the internet off. Oh, boo-hoo. I won't be able to update my Instagram, and then that'll do it. And I don't think that they needed to do anything other than open the door marked pleasure and say, here's pleasure. Here's sexual pleasure. Here's intellect. Like, we're pleasured intellectually. We're masturbated mentally, which is really dangerous with these echo chambers. And that softens a person. That softens you. Right. You don't have to. People's minds are not sharp. They're not keeping the sword sharp. They're not staying fresh. They're not keeping the powder dry. They don't understand cognitive biases. They don't understand logical fallacies. And people are getting dumber. Like, I've been working online since 2005, interacting with people. And in the last 18 months, I've really noticed people don't get sarcasm anymore. They don't get irony anymore. No. Our sense of humor has been dialed down, and people are like, so are you saying you want to drown a bag of kittens? And I'm like, no, that was me being funny, which is why I did it in a silly Russian voice. Really? Like, are you fucking kidding me right now? And so pleasuring people, it's a hell of a drug, and it's so corrupting, such a corrupting drug as well.
No doubt. Yeah. Sarcasm is pretty much dead, unless it's like overly dramatic sarcasm where you can notice it, everybody can notice it, and even then you still have a motherfucker that's like, hey, I didn't, and that's like, or I don't know if they're autistic. I don't know, because I really don't know where that comes from, and I don't want to shit on autistic people. I got my nigga Brain Pudding. That's my guy. He's autistic. Yeah. But I don't, and I have a nephew. My brother's son is autistic as well. But I just don't know where that's really coming from. Is it like, because people, there's a theory that it comes from like extreme trauma as a kid, but people have been having extreme trauma as a kid for years, centuries.
Yeah,
So it can't
I've
be
not,
from that. I feel
I've
like it's
not.
from the computer. I feel
Well,
like it's from a computer aspect, some weird technological shit that we're doing that's making people more robotic. Because autism, what to me, what does it look like? It just looks like a person that's a little bit more robotic than an actual human, and not in a narcissistic way, but just in a way that they just, I don't compute, I don't get what you're saying, your jokes did not land. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm going to take everything you just said literally. Um,
right, right,
I think there's a particular. I've never seen a convincing description of what brings autism about. There's autism spectrum disorder. It covers a whole lot of things. You're talking about what used to be referred to as Asperger's syndrome, which is more like high functioning autism, where you'd have
right, right.
just a completely like brain pudding, like obviously completely fine, high functioning, no problems whatsoever. Because autism can also manifest as people who they just can't look after themselves. They have to be in
Yeah, yeah,
24-hour care.
right,
So that high functioning autism is fine on all elements of human communication until you get, so it's a tree. Here's people talking. Here's people. Do you want to go to dinner? Yes, I do. I understand you. But as the tree goes out to the branches and the twigs and the little leaves, where the comedy is, where the irony is, where the, do you want to go out to dinner? Oh yeah, I'd fucking love to. It's out there on the twigs, and they're like looking at you, going, I'm getting the message that yes, but also you're making a funny face. And I don't, so it's the lack of understanding of meta communication. So
right.
to lend weight to your hypothesis that it's something that the computer is doing, well, the less time we spend looking at each other, you know, even like you and I were from different nations and different backgrounds, and the accent is different, the jokes are different. Like if I was gonna take the piss out of you. We even have a different idiom for that. You would break my balls. I'd take the piss out of you.
Mm.
The timing of that is different. You have to learn it. Now you're smart and you've been around people. I'm smart. I've been around people. This is code for if we were raised in abusive households. You had to learn where the danger was coming from, so you felt
Right,
the air. So your meta communication. You're fast. So you could go to Liverpool and inside of a day or two, you'd be like, okay, I got what these fuckers are doing, and you can do it
right,
back.
right,
Meta communication is the communication behind the content. It's the context, it's the tone of voice, it's the pacing, it's the gestures, it's everything. And with certain types of high functioning autism, yeah, they don't get that. If you isolate people and you literally put them in their homes and they're just watching TV, scrolling the phone, hours, days, weeks, months, and now years, they lose it. They lose their,
right.
they can't look at a person, and it's a skill. It's an unconscious skill, but you just get out the pattern of it, and it breeds a kind of autism. Sam Vaknin made this point on one of the interviews I did with him on social media. So social media is largely created by white males in their late 20s, early 30s, who are by
Right.
nature schizoid and high functioning autistic, and it's
Right.
reflected in the media, in the medium itself, and the medium guides you. So if you keep using social media, you'll kind of end up with a Zuckerberg-ish style of communication, which is a
Right.
bit Asperger's-y and a little bit schizoid-y, and it's certainly not warm and funny. I mean, look at the way Facebook users speak to each other now, and I'm like, you guys are a bunch of fucking savages. I don't want to put my hand inside that blender. And that's normal. That's at that level of total hostility is normal, because it's the medium itself. It just so I just wanted to lend weight to your idea that it's something about the computers. I think we can say it is.
I think so. I think so, because I don't think I've seen so many other like autistic people growing up, coming up,
Yeah.
and up until like the computer boom, and then it's like now it's like seems like it's 20% of the people that I run into, they're autistic, and some, they're on the spectrum somewhere, which is a
I,
little weird.
I think what's also one of the tragic side effects, and those many tragic side effects of the time that we're living through now, is people have less patience for each other, and there's less of a sense of there's more of a sense like, why should I bother? Why should I give you that extra bit of time to learn what you're saying? Or wait, like, fuck you, get out of my way. We're all going to end up like angry New Yorkers. It's like, I'm busy. Fuck you, get out of my way.
Right. Do you think that is like because there's so much information coming to us all at once? Because being in New York, I know that's kind of the issue. The issue is there's so much information coming to us. Just by looking at all the people that are coming at us. Like I would walk through New York and I'd just be going through hundreds of thousands of people that I would never see tomorrow as I walk through New York again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like after a while, it's like, well, I can't pay attention to every single person. Whereas you're in a country area, you're in a suburban area, people watch every single person that walks down the fucking block or drives down the block. They're like, who the fuck is that? I wonder where he's going. Like, where in New York, you're like, it's too much shit. Get out of my face. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, you know, like I find myself even having to check myself. Like my girl's trying to have a conversation with me, but now I'm trying to consume information. I'm trying to consume all this like YouTube videos. And I gotta be like, all right, let her talk. I gotta give her, you know, she gotta talk too. What the fuck? You can't just be selfish and be about yourself. You know, so you find yourself in those type of situations, especially nowadays, because there's just so much shit. Like, especially if you have like more than a few interests. If you're interested in music, interested in, like for myself, interested in music, interested in gaming, you're interested in like philosophy and different things, and then science and other shit. You're like, I want to learn all this, and it's there. Once you go open up the fucking YouTube tab, there's a bunch of shit there that you can learn. There's a bunch of shit there that piques your interest.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is acutely for me. Whereas this person's having a conversation, I'm connected with this person, but they're talking to me about what's going on with them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like making us a little bit more narcissistic as a whole, selfish as a whole, where it's like, it's more about me. It's not about you. And you have to constantly check yourself. If you're not checking yourself, you can fall victim to that, where you're like, oh, it's all about me. It ain't about nobody else around me. And you just start rubbing off. It rubs off the wrong way, basically.
Yeah. If you do start rubbing off, then you can come back to yourself for a moment, take a little break. That the 5 seconds after the orgasm, you get like a little space of mindlessness, and then all that junk just starts rushing back in again. Well, I better clean myself up now and get back to consuming a ton of fucking information.
Okay, so here's a hold on. I want to try to, because I have some questions that I do want to get off before we end this shit. And I heard you and Pierre complaining about not being able to get certain guests on the show. You guys are shooting for different guests, and maybe you're not getting the ones that you want. Why do you think that is in today's society? Like, why do you think that, or are you not? You just made a joke, and I'm just over.
I don't. Well, the thing is, like, if we did say that, we shouldn't, because neither of us has tried to get a guest on the show.
See, I fucking knew it, because I'm like, no, you motherfuckers. If you wanted a guest, you could get a guest. I'm getting all types of guests. I can probably get more guests if I had the clout that you guys had. Yes, I could probably get a bunch of other people. So why the fuck are you guys acting like
what we said? Somebody said like, "Oh, you should go on Russell Brand," and the joke was, we were like, it's not for us to decide. Like, Russell's huge. We don't get to decide. Like, hi Russell, we're ready to come on your fucking show now.
Well, yeah. You can't go on somebody else's shit. You can invite them on your stuff.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I personally haven't tried, but that's, I mean, yeah, maybe probably me and Pierre were just telling a dumb joke, because where me and Pierre are up to, aside from Tentacle Croissant, is I'm sure Pierre wouldn't mind me saying this. He would like to pull back a little bit more. I'm happy to move forward more, because I feel more confident, more strident, and he's going to support me in that. He's like, if you're a Pierre XO fan, he's going to keep doing his channel. He's going to keep doing Pierre Extra. He's not going anywhere, but he doesn't want to push right now. And he's just said, like, you know, he's going through a thing. He's going through his own individuation process. He's in therapy, and He doesn't want to push. That's cool. So actually what's going to happen is I'm cleaning up my website. I'm going to get this book done. And then that philosophy channel that's going now, that will be something that me and him work on quite diligently. And I will ask for guests there, and I will get them. I will get them eventually. There is a methodology to it. And there's a way of approaching people, and they need to look at your channel and be like, oh, this is a channel I would want to be on. And so you need to be quite, like, if you're going to do a channel on psychedelics, it's a channel on psychedelics. If you're going to do something that's on psychology and philosophy, with a bit of politics, that's what it needs to be. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because people don't have the time to learn the fullness of who you are. They're probably going to look at your channel, see how many subscribers you have, which is like that's the way it is. That's the economy. And then be like, who else has been on here? What they talking about? Okay, I'll yes or no. If we're talking about celebrities and people like that,
different, So I love the new website that you got going on and shit.
Thank you.
What made you go that route? What made you not like say, okay, I'm just gonna get on Patreon, or I'm just gonna stay on fucking YouTube? What made you decide? Was it that David Icke shit? What was it?
It was a culmination of things. It was the David Icke thing, but even before the David Icke thing, there's been pressure to say less, and to watch your words, and to be like, you can't really swear on YouTube now. If you want your video to get monetized or promoted, you shouldn't even swear. There's words you shouldn't say that relate to violence. Apparently, it changes all the time. So that whole thing was changing. The world obviously is changing. We're in this weird anti-science medical tyranny sort of a time. And so I was like, well, I need to protect my investments, because I've invested a lot of time and blood, sweat, and tears into that project. I've sacrificed too much for it, which is a whole other topic. Like, I'm resentful, which is another reason why I have to wrap it up, put it in its place, and then go and do something else that I really want to do, because I find myself resentful of it. And like we said in the beginning, you can be the victim of your own success, then you feel trapped, then you feel like a dick because you're not being authentic. So it's really an effort for me to get to a position where I can go, okay, I've tidied my room, because I can't leave that room messy. I've got to tidy my damn room, clean it up. When it's all clean, then I'll be like, okay, I did that. I could put a lock on the door, nice, clean, tidy room, and then move on to other things, which I'm very keen to do. Okay. So that's just giving you a little bit more leeway to talk and to be able to. Yeah, it's leeway to talk. I think the reality is with YouTube and the way the world is now, like you really can't just say what you want, because, well, look at what's happening with Brett Weinstein at the moment. He's a pure scientist. He only has scientists on talking. They only tell peer-reviewed, published, well-researched scientific facts. And they're dogging his channel. They're absolutely dogging his fucking channel and deleting videos and canceling videos and demonetizing him and giving him time out. So it's a fucking disgrace. So the times really are changing. They really, really are changing. So if I have my own space, it's back to my space. If I have my own space, then if YouTube gets rid of me, there's still a place people can come. Right.
So I overheard you talking to Yuji yesterday. I was listening to the IG live. You said something about like we need to ban advertisement.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when you were talking about New York and the stimulation before, I was thinking of Adam Sandler's movie Uncut Gems. Have you seen that?
Of course.
Great. Yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah, I love that.
I found it enormously stressful. Like that, I was like, oh,
which is great.
It was just great.
It was just like, oh, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing?
You fucker. And you're forced to watch this. He's not, because you can't hate him. He's a fucking jackass, but he's not a bad guy. He's just an idiot.
He's an idiot, yeah.
And but I've only been in Manhattan once. I was only there for 3 days, but it's like the essence of New York. He put the essence of the gamble, the risk, the money, screaming into mobile phones, trying to reach from here to there, and your arm's too fucking short. You shouldn't. What are you doing? No, I'll just pop my shoulder out of joint, and you can't. Like, something's going to break. And that sensation of overwhelm and stress. What I said to UG Rose, it's like it's like a recurrent joke with me. If I was the benevolent dictator, I absolutely would ban advertising. I'm fucking 100%, because there's loads of things I would ban if I was a tyrant. If I was a tyrant, there's tons of things that we do now that's like, oh, this is normal. I'd be like, you fuckers aren't doing that anymore, because it made you miserable, and then it made you kill yourselves and each other. So those days are gone. You have your freedoms, but they're not limitless freedoms. And this kind of aggressive Clockwork Orange, look at the fucking advert now, it's got to go. I noticed it in London. I was on a bus or a train, and I was reading the advert. I'd see words and I'd read it, and then I'd look at the thing and it says, don't put your foot on the seat, and I look at it, it says no smoking, and then there's this flashing sign, and I was like, I want to see nothing. And I couldn't put my eyes anywhere where there was no words. I was like, oh, where do I put? So I closed my eyes, and then a voice comes over the tannoy, and I'm like, oh my fucking God, stop. And I thought, this is inhumane. This is absolute barbarism to impose. Like, it's a human software fault. If it says here, Richard's insurance company, insure your dick, you can't not read that. You can't not, like, so it's the same thing as me standing in front of your face and going, here's my insurance company. Well, fuck you. Leave me. I'm in the middle of a daydream. I'm in the middle of a thought. Let people think. Let people breathe. Let them have nothing. Let them have nothing for just give mercy. This is such a merciless environment that we've created.
So many interjects, basically just cutting off the train of thought, and then we're like, oh, we all have ADHD and yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, I wonder why every time you turn around there's somebody just fucking cutting off your train of thought.
Yeah.
And then eventually you just get into the spiral where you're like, all right, this is how I think. I just think like this, and then I go, oh, here's another thought. Oh, there's another thought. Because you just fucking constantly getting chopped at the fucking limbs.
And they're not your thoughts. They're not yours. You don't give a fuck about that insurance company, some dental agent you're never going to see, or like, all this shit. You don't need a new shower installed, but it's other people's ideas, and they're not like a bunch of different people from different religions or different philosophies going, hey, it would be really cool if right now you just meditated. And then another one says, hey, it would be cool if you just smiled at a stranger and struck up a car. No, it's buy my thing, buy it. Hey, buy this. Fuck
right.
off.
Buy my thing, it'll make you better because you suck right now. Don't you know you suck? You should buy the thing that I'm selling.
Brutal, mate. It's brutal. So yeah, I absolutely would. If I was a tyrant and I had total control, I'd just be like, yeah, that's you can't do that in public spaces. People would have to consent to being advertised to in an enclosed space, and it would come with a government warning. Because I'd be Big Brother, it would have my face on it, which would be like, don't let them take your fucking mind away, you nitwit. Because it's easily given. It's so easily given. We're not trained in philosophy. We're not trained in critical thinking.
Right.
We're not even trained in anything, really. We're conditioned to just watch TV and do what the people on TV do. And if they tell us to do a thing, stick your thumb up your ass and stand on one leg every Thursday at 8 o'clock. A good number of us do it.
Of course. So that's like, because the government and the way we're moving as a society is some gangster shit. And I wanted to ask you about, because you ran with some gangsters, some mobsters, you worked for some people. But I wanted to ask you did you ever have to hurt somebody in that line of work? And then how did you feel about that, or afterwards, like now when you look back at that, like, damn, I hurt that guy, I broke that guy's fucking arm, and I sat there, I broke his fucking arm, he didn't pay the guy. Like, I don't know what happened. I'm just making shit up. So tell me.
I was never in a Scorsese movie. I might have been in like a farcical Guy Ritchie movie. I was a tourist, and I was a mascot because I didn't fit. Because I was I was private school educated, and most people who are not from my area think I speak with an accent, but this is extremely posh where I'm from. They'd be like, "Oh, la-di-da, how many, servants do you have in your mansion?" kind of thing. And but I would fight, and so they loved me, and I was loyal because I was young, and I didn't have a father.
Right.
I have a father, but he wasn't around. He wasn't interested. So there were different bosses that I had, who I was very, very attached to, who were complete lunatics. I mean, I'll name one right now. People can look him up. I mean, I worked for Stephen French for years, and I idolized him. He's he's a nutcase. He's not well. He's not a well guy. If you can look him up, it's clear he's not very well. But I work for him. If you look up Britain's hardest debt collector, there's a Vice documentary that's got like 30 million views. I worked for him. He was the first guy I ever worked for. But I was never in a situation where it was like, Richard, you need to now break that guy's arm because he didn't pay that. But it was never like that. It was I mean, I did nightclub security work for these guys mainly. I did do other stuff as well, but I mean, you're like, oh, debt collection. You just go to some fucking slob's house and be like, you owe money. Yeah, I'll pay you next week, mate. You've already said that. You got to give me some. It wasn't like, fucking 38 snub nose in the eye, Tony Soprano. You're gonna fucking pay. It was just like, mate, if you don't, and you would appeal. You'd be like, you want me here? Look at your neighbors. Look at this. It's embarrassing and it's boring. I don't want to drive here. This is fucking far away from the city. Please, can you? It was never. But did I hurt people? Yeah, I fucking beat the fuck out of hospitalized people. Do I feel bad about it? I mean, I did get in real trouble once because I put somebody in such a bad state. But he opened one of my friend's faces up with a bottle, cut through his nose and his lip to the bone. And I was high. I was high on drugs at the time, and I lost my fucking mind.
I bet.
So.
No, I get you. Yeah, definitely. Like, I just imagine, because I was thinking about that, like, he never said anything as much as, like, you said about the fight with you in the gay club and somebody thought you were. I know that one, but it's like, what was Richard doing? Was it Richard breaking arms and legs and shit?
No, there would be things like there was debt collection. There was a scene where somebody had stolen something, so we had call outs. But I don't know how familiar you are with that world. But do you know what a call out is? You just go call all the lads who are related. Oh, so you're in a gang? Well, it's not really a gang. You just know each other. But it would be impressive because somebody who knows somebody owns a bar. People go to that bar and they're from outside the area and they start smashing the bar up. And you say to them, listen, stop. And wherever they're from, they're big boys from wherever they're from. And you go, you need to stop or else. And they go, fuck you, you fucking prick. So you make a phone call and you can call 80 lads there. And then 80 fucking ugly, hairy men are standing outside the bar going, you're going to have to come outside. You've got two choices now. You can call the police or you can come outside and take a fucking hiding. So there's situations like that. But it wasn't hold his arm still and snap the fucker. It would be like, you're not
beat him up.
Nobody wants to go to fucking jail. But then there were other situations I was involved in where, I mean, I could have been done for attempted murder. I've tried to kill people in fights because I would lose my fucking mind. The good thing was the person I was fighting with was really good at fighting. And so that just didn't happen. I tried to put somebody's head through a plate glass window And the idea was to I was a total psychopath when I was 26. Break the window, and then when the window broke, I was going to drag his head down and cut his head off with the. I don't even think that would work. But that's
too many. That's too many fucking movies, Richard. That's
too many movies. But so you probably know what happened. I was just banging his head against this really strong door because the glass doesn't break like it does in movies, you know, where they throw them out and they just go. No, they just go. And, you know, one of his friends came over and started biting me or some fucking thing. No, there was violence, but not the kind of premeditated violence that would, if you stood in front of a judge, they would put you away for. Maybe twice in my life, and it would have been bad. And unfortunately, it was all sorted out without that being necessary. And the thing about that whole time, you said, does it upset me? When I look back, it does upset me. There's PTSD from knowing what you can do to people, right, or knowing the ugliness that you have inside right. of you. Right. And I also knew what real fear was, because that's how I knew I wasn't built like that. I'm not gangster, because I had gangsters come after me and I shit myself. I couldn't sleep. I was terrified. I was like, and I had mates of mine saying, why don't you get a gun? And I was like, are you out of your fucking mind? Get a fucking gun. Jesus Christ. So I flirted in that realm. I was a tourist there, and then I got kicked out because the inevitable happened. I was either going to get shot or put in jail. I very nearly got jailed. Oh, that was the other thing. I was terrified of prison. I was like, I don't want to be in a room with some sweaty man 23 hours a day. And so I just stopped. I was just like, okay, right. Let's
right.
go
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. For me, like, everybody around me used to sell drugs, cocaine, crack right outside the stoop. Like, and I wanted to do music. I didn't want to get into none of that shit. Like, I was fighting as a kid, but once I started getting older, and I would be like, I had some fights as an adult and growing up, but mainly I was just like, all right, I don't want to, these motherfuckers getting locked up. Like, my brother got locked up out of the apartment that we grew up in like 2-3 times. As a kid, I'm like 10, 11 years old. Police is coming. Hey, we're looking for an animal. You're getting locked up. My mom crying, no. And I'm like, I don't want to be in that situation where I'm getting locked up and mom's crying.
Yeah.
So I'm just not even, I got to the certain point. Once I got to, like, because I was running the streets young. Like, I was outside like 5 years old. As soon as I was like 5 years old, go outside, go with your brother. My brother was 10. He became 11, 12. He started to get into some shit. I was right there with him because it was like, take your brother with you. So I started, and I was just completely influenced by it. I was like, yeah, this is what we do. We fuck people up. We fight. So, like, that's who I thought I should be.
Yeah.
I could, it's just, after a while, you're like, no, this is not, like, growing up, as I was lucky enough to have the smarts to look around the room and look around the area. I don't like this. This is not me. Whereas a lot of kids that I grew up with, even cats that I was best friends with as a kid, and they knew how I was about the streets, getting, like, selling drugs and being a part of it and shit like that. They almost all of them ended up selling crack, getting into fights, having friends get killed in front of them.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, I guess I'm not gonna be fucking with anybody here. Like, and it took a lot because, like, growing up and you have your best friends and everybody's tight.
Yeah.
To be able to be by your fucking self and just be like, you know what? I don't care where I go, but I'm not dealing with this.
It's me.
It's you. Popo. They coming for that ass.
They'll be coming to learn control and restraint techniques from me. Did you find when you were seeing it face to face that there was, like, there's a difference between the fantasy of what that world is and the movie version and the real version of it, right?
Right. A lot of people, made it out to be like that was their story. If they had this whole fight and everything, that was like their movie and that was their thing. Where it's like, no, this is reality. And reality is you're going to get stuck in one of them cells. You're going to be going back and forth doing this. Because what I noticed was it's a bunch of men just trying to impress other men.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all it is. Everybody's just trying to, I'm just going to impress you. I'm tough like you. Like, and I'm going to do bullshit and get locked up just like you. So I could say, hey, I'm out here.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't give a fuck what y'all think of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Well,
like,
I think that's actually a really good reframe for it, because that was definitely a factor for me. Was I was like, this is men focused on men. And I really, really liked women. Really liked women a lot. And I was like, this doesn't even make sense. Why don't you take this energy? Like, if you go to jail, you'll be imprisoned with a bunch of men. There's no girls there. And I was like, oh yeah, that's like, yeah. Take the energy, go and do. And that's when I started. I started working in the schools. But I think what you're talking about, it's like that would be the life that the guys I was with, that's what they were doing. But what it made you sort of see is like nobody's really hard. Nobody's that guy. Not really. It's only fantasy. Everybody can be got to. And people can be got to by mistake. You know, how many, you're in Chicago now, right?
Yeah.
So you'll read the stories. People get shot from mistaken identity, or some fucking idiot meant to wave the gun and then it went off in their fucking hand. It's I think the way it's shown in movies for dramatic effect, and the picture we build up is, it's like there's a gang and there's that gang and there's another one and they have a specific beef about a specific thing and then they do it. It's more like random drunk bullshit for men who are still 14 years old. Like, and that's who I worked with, was like 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, and they were still running the streets like they were 15. Snot, football, his parents weren't around, or the parents were abusive, and they became stuck in that period. But because I was into The Sopranos and gangster movies and Scorsese, I wanted to be a tourist in that world. It was a very conscious. I didn't have to be in it. I had the choice. Yeah. And I chose to enter into it, and it just was bigger than me. I thought I was smart. I was like, I can do this and then leave as me. And then I found I stopped being me and became that. So I actually adapted very well to that world, and it was frightening. It was frightening.
Right. Yeah, my brother, he was on this podcast a couple of times, and one of the times he came on here and he was talking about how he was influenced to do all the gangster shit that he was doing, and he said, I thought it was music. I'm like, the music, right? And he's like, yeah, the music, but it was the movies that I would watch. It was all the Scarface, the Godfather, it's all those movies that I would watch and that he used to love. I didn't give a fuck about those movies.
Right.
I could care less. You put those movies on, it was probably because he was fucking torturing me with them growing up. We watching shit all the fucking time. But yeah, I didn't care about them, but he did. And he just got drawn into that. I still look at my brother now like, he's a bigger dude than me.
Right.
But I never looked at him as tough.
Yeah.
I never looked at him as gangster. Like, yeah, he was smart. Like, he's a smart guy. When he wants to get something done, he can get it done. But gangster, no. Because I know what people were doing out in the streets, and I knew what I was doing when I was running around. I was really fighting people for nothing. Like, I was just out there really being a retard. So, like, I see my brother wasn't fighting. My brother was smart. But those movies led him in that direction. Yeah. And it just, now it's hard for, like, he talked about it now, and now he's damn near 40 years old, but it's hard to turn back because that's all he fucking knew. Since he was 10, 9, he was watching those fucking movies. Yeah. Anyway, Richard Grannon, thank you for coming through, man. Thank you for coming through. You wanna end this? Let people know, tell them thanks for the attention and all that. Tell them.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you very much, Potent. It's always a pleasure having a conversation with you. I'm always open to this. Just send me a message, mate. I'm happy to come on. Please check out my philosophy channel, ladies and gents. It's running, it's operational, and it's just wonderful. I'm producing so much wonderful content there. Yep. So I'll do the thing, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And we look forward to speaking to you again soon.
All right. This is the Street Shaman Podcast, Shamanic Poe, Richard Grannon, and we out of here.